Welcome to the Sport Exchange with me, John Robbie. Hi guys, welcome to the Sport Exchange podcast where we meet sporting personalities and learn about their lives and their life stories. Today on the Sport Exchange podcast, we talk soccer with the longest running coach in the PSL. He's coached 7 Stars, Hellenic, Black Leopards, Swallows, Supersport United and Wits. He's won 4 titles, including 3 in a row with Supersport United. And every club he has coached finished in the top 8. Welcome, Gavin Hunt. Gavin, thanks for chatting to us morning.
John, thanks for having me here. Thank you.
What's it like being fired as a coach?
Well, you've always got your suitcase by the front door, haven't you? So you never know when you're going to get fired.
But is it true? I mean, they say that one thing certain about every coach is they're going to get fired.
Well, there's 2 things in life that's certain. You're going to pay tax and you're going to get fired.
And you're going to die.
And you're going to die.
But what is it like? I mean, do you know... Is it different each time? Tell us what it's like getting fired.
I think I've been fired once before, and it was the worst feeling in the world, because what actually happened was that we weren't doing that badly for the team that we had, but they felt we should be doing better. You know, owners of football clubs are very emotional people, and that's why it's very, very important. The most important relationship, people say, is the coach and the players. No. It's the chairman and the coach.
Yeah.
So, I was very disappointed, obviously, playing for a club like I played for 14 seasons, Hellenic, and then to get fired by them as a coach was very disappointing. But it's something that lives with you, and it's something that always reminds you every day that I go to training, or every day we go to a game, that it's always you're only one step away from being fired.
But I mean, you literally get called in and said, Gavin, I'm very sorry. Goodbye.
Generally, you have those Monday meetings. Mondays after the weekend's result.
Yeah.
And we just got beat. I'll never forget it. We lost to a team called Real Rovers in Polokwane. We had 2 red cards, a penalty, and we lost 1-0. And they weren't there, because those days there was no television.
Yes.
So the games couldn't get broadcast. And I always used to say to the owners, come with and watch, because you can't sit in Cape Town and we in Polokwane and watch the game.
Yeah.
And I got called in on the Monday, and they said, look, it's not working, and we want you to go. I said, go where? They said, no, you need to, you've been fired, basically. I said, oh, it's okay, pay the contract out. And they said, well, we're not paying you out. I said, what? I was over the table and I had him by the throat.
You're serious?
It was chaotic. It was chaotic. The table, cups and saucers, and because there was all the Greeks, and they were all George. Yeah. George Kalkianos, George Vianos, and George Azidakis, and another George. And it was, I was shaking.
How old are you at that time? 30?
I must have been about 35, 36, yeah.
And
I was young in the coaching game.
Yeah.
There's no doubt, but we did very, very well the 2 seasons before that.
Yeah.
And we sold players and made money for the club. And I said, that's all good and well, but I mean, there's going to come a time where the team's going to bottom out a little bit. And we were 10th in the league after 20 games. There was no danger of us being relegated. We're not going to win the league, but there was never intention to win the league at our football club. Hellenic.
But I mean, now with the benefit of hindsight, do you protect yourself when you sign a contract?
I think basically when you go into
plus, of course, it's a different era now.
Yeah. No, it's totally different era now. Yeah. I think when you go into a contract now, there's a get out clause for both parties, and it's quite I wouldn't say amicable, because you got to know who you're dealing with, but I think it's quite. The legality of the situation is much better now, because they didn't want to pay me as well. That was another story.
Yeah.
That's the reason why I went over the top of the table. It was crazy, because I knew I had a family, and in that time, my family was part of the Hellenic family, because my father-in-law was the youth development coach. My brother-in-law was a coach in the club. We'd been to the club for 25 years. We had a history at the club, and not to pay me 6 months' wages, which they owed me.
Did you get it in the end?
I got the money, but then I had to get a lawyer, and
so by the time you'd paid the legal fees,
there was a bit of taste in my mouth, and it's amazing, John. 6 months later, they phoned me and said, "Oh, we've made a huge mistake. We want you to come back." And I said, "Well, I won't tell you what I said."
Yeah, I can guess.
I said, "Have a nice day."
Here's the question: you've coached so many clubs, you've had so much success. How come you've never coached Chiefs, Pirates, Sundowns, or Bafana Bafana?
I don't know what order you want to go that in, but I've been, if you go, there's been 2 clubs that I've had meetings with, and I've had the pen in my hand to sign the contract, and I never signed the contract. For whatever reason, there was a little bird on my shoulder that said, maybe it's not the right time. Money was double, triple the money that I was earning.
Really?
It was, John, it's amazing in life. Something, I don't know, You
Well,
know,
instinct. It's called.
it's instinct.
You go with your guts.
And I've
That's
always
what they're there
coached.
for.
I've always coached on gut feel.
Yeah.
I've always gone. If it's between John and Peter and Paul, I'll go with John because I just got a feeling about him.
Yeah.
And don't get it right all the time, but
Yeah.
I work on a lot of that, and I've had my pen.
But how do you?
I sat in the office.
Yeah.
Both those two clubs. I won't mention their names.
Yeah.
And I had the pen in my paper. And I looked at the money. I went, my God, this could change my life. But I thought this also I could be gone in 6 months here. And I said, no, I'm not going. And I stayed where I was at Supersport.
Any regrets though? Because surely that the dream.
Yeah,
is the
I
coach.
do have regrets. I have a few regrets now because I was a little bit hot-headed. And as I've got older, it's amazing as you get older in life and coach, you get a little bit calmer in situations and you look at it. Right now, if they came back again, I would sign those deals because I know it would set you up for life almost, you know.
Yeah,
and I didn't do it. But I'm okay because I believe I've always been, even as a player, it's all about consistency. It's all about doing the right things. And I felt sometimes loyalty will pay you back. And there's no loyalty in this game. I always say, if you want loyalty, buy a dog. Because the dog, you go home in the evening, the dog loves you. Doesn't matter if you had a bad day, a good day.
Is that true in soccer? Is that true in soccer?
So
There's no
it's so
loyalty.
true. There's no loyalty, John. There's no loyalty.
And
I've seen. I mean, I played for a club for 14 years.
Yeah.
I gave my life and soul. Okay, it is what it is. Coached the team. I did well. Always look into the future of the club, and then you get fired, and you say, "What's it all about?" You know?
And you look at a guy like Lucas Radebe.
Yeah.
You know, he was so loyal to Leeds United. Manchester United came and looked for him.
Yeah.
He turned them down and said Leeds have been terrific.
Exactly.
And now he's an absolute legend. Do you look at a guy like that and say, with respect, or do you say he was stupid?
Well, I think he's financially sound now.
Yeah.
So he's okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think if you look at the time, I think Man United being such a club that it was, as a player is different to coaching.
Sure.
'Cause coaching, it's there's a lot of people around you. And as a player, you can worry about yourself. And
Yeah.
if you look after yourself. And I think as a player, that's the problem we had as a players in our day. We were all amateurs playing in a so-called professional era, earning 500 Rand a month, Mickey Mouse money. And we couldn't move in our day because you were bound by a registration form.
Yeah.
So when you played for a club and you signed a registration, you were there for life, unless they wanted to get rid of you. Nowadays, players work on 2, 3, 4 year deals, and once you come to the end of your contract, you can go.
Yeah.
So we in our day we couldn't go, and I mean, Pirates wanted to sign me when I was about 22, 23, and it was triple the money, but he couldn't go because they wanted a transfer fee, blah 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 blah.
How did that feel at the time?
Shocking, because remember we had to do our national service.
Yeah.
So we were in the army and earning 70 Rand a month in the army, and now you come out, you can pay 2,000 Rand a month at a football club, and you say no, they can't go, and you're only earning 400-500 Rand at the other club, and you say, well, you know.
And did you speak to them and say, I want to go? I mean,
you can speak
Pirates would
until
have
the
been
cows come
amazing.
home. And I said, bugger you staying here, you know. And then you threw your toys out the cot for a week or two, and you said, okay, bugger it, and you got playing again. That's what used to happen in our day.
Where did your love of football come from?
Well, as a kid, obviously growing up, I was a great Cape Town City supporter. You know, John, you were here in the 70s?
Came in 81.
In the 70s, football in South Africa was like an English Premier League, to be fair.
Yeah.
We had all the World Cup winners coming over.
Because the Rand was so strong.
The Rand was stronger than the pound.
Yeah.
So they all came over and had these month or two, George Best. And obviously I grew up in Cape Town. So we had all the legends and the heroes there, where obviously my late father-in-law, Budgie Byrne, came over.
Legend.
And they all came over. Gordon Banks, Jeff Hurst, Bobby Moore, all played and had a stint at Atlantic.
Yeah.
And Cape Town City had George Eastham, all these guys. So your love of football as a kid, going to watch them as a young kid, grew as like watching an English Premier League football match.
Why soccer, not rugby?
I was a great rugby player. Let me rephrase it. We all had to play rugby.
Yeah.
But I was a good rugby player.
What position?
I was a centre.
Really?
Yeah.
And did you ever think of
well,
of
John,
rugby?
you know what used to happen? We know what used to happen. We used to all, in the weekends, we had to play rugby in the mornings and then play football.
What school were you?
I was at Observatory Boys. We were a football school.
Yeah, right.
So I've got to tell you one story, John.
Yeah, please.
We used to go play the Afrikaans schools. You know those guys, they got shaved heads. And we all footballers, and we got a game in the afternoon, and we're playing these Afrikaans schools. And they all used to be in a huddle and praying. We used to say, God help us today. We're going to get 100 points against us. And the first up and under, I'll never forget our fullback, David Rosley, who played for me for Atlantic. We were at school playing professional football.
Yeah.
And we had a game like playing Kaiser Chiefs in the weekend, but we got to play rugby on Saturday morning. And they stuck it up and under. And instead of catching it, he just volleyed it straight back. these Afrikaans guys say, what the hell is going on here? And we were like, they come and they throw a dummy, we would dive the other way and let them go past us. But we were good rugby players because we had football intelligence and knowledge of ball skills, and we were
How good a player were you? Because every description says you were nuggety, which in those days meant dirty as hell.
Yeah, right. I used to kick anything that moved, and if it didn't move, I kicked it till it moved.
Yeah.
That was our job. No, I think, John, you know what happens in sport, John? The older you get, the better you used to think you were.
Yeah, the older you get, the better you were.
You think you were. You tell your grandchildren, when I played my day, I did this, blah. It's a lot of bull. Sorry.
Yeah.
But I think if I summarize myself, I was honest.
Yeah.
I was very consistent.
Yeah.
You would never get a 9 out of 10. You would never get a 5 out of 10 with me.
Yeah.
You get 8 out of 10.
Exactly what a coach wants.
Exactly. So you would
Were you quick?
I was quite quick, but what happened in our day, John, we only used to have a squad of 14, 15 players.
Yeah.
So I started as a midfield player. Then I ended up at left back. Then I ended up at right back. Then I ended up at centre back.
Yeah.
And at the end of my career, I played centre back. So you got moved around. I mean, I played left wing against Kaiser Chiefs. I was a defender.
Yeah.
I scored 2 goals against Kaiser Chiefs playing left wing. Gary Bailey was in goals.
Yeah.
At Hotleyvale. And I never played left wing again in my life, but I scored 2 that day. And Budgie said to me, I don't know what's going on with you, but do you understand? So we in our day, we were very versatile and we understood different systems and how to play. And nowadays, if I tell my right back to go play left wing, he's going to say, God, I don't know what to do here.
Don't know what to do.
So in those days, that's what happened. And I thought we were all very good all-round players. So, yeah.
Did you ever get a sniff of going overseas? Obviously, Army would have
When
been
I was
the problem.
15, Bolton Wanderers, George Malhall, came to my mother, and I was sitting in the lounge. I can still see it. And he said he wanted to take me as a 15-year-old to Bolton Wanderers. And then my mother said to me, but you can, in those days, John, if you went overseas until 30, you'd have to come back to your army for 2 years. Because we had this indoctrination of doing your army service. Because we were told, you can go anywhere in the world. You go to varsity, because guys used to go to varsity.
Of course.
For 5-6 years, and they did... they went on and on and on. I think they failed on purpose not to go to the army. And guys were going to the army at 30 years old.
Yeah.
And I thought, no, bugger this. I can't go to the army. But, So I never really went. And
do you regret it?
Yeah, of course. That was the biggest regret in my life. That was the biggest regret in my life. Because I felt that if I look at the opportunities now that these young kids have gone, and I look at their ability and what they do, and me at 15, was pretty decent.
Yeah.
You never know. You never know.
Tell us about Budgie Byrne, because he was your
father-in-law. He was the biggest
legend.
influence on my career, John. He signed me as a 16-year-old. I played in the Coca-Cola Cup final, and we won it. And he was at the game, and he signed me. And I trained with the first team at 16 for a season until I was 17, and then I made my debut at 17 in the Premier League year. Yeah.
Tell us about your debut.
It was against Morocco Swallows at George Koch Stadium there on the highway there.
Yeah, I know it well.
I played there. I never get it. In the team, we had Des Backos, Malcolm Fulby, guys who were legends of South African football.
Yeah.
And obviously I had guys like Donald Reich, who was my captain, and Budgie, he took me through this whole process about becoming a professional footballer.
And what did he give you more? Because he was a bit of a hooligan, wasn't he? I mean, he enjoyed drink.
He taught me a few things, how to drink. He taught me how to enjoy yourself in life. But he was a salt of the earth guy.
Yeah.
And guy that I today still imply his principles of how to play the game. He came from West Ham.
Yeah.
Now West Ham could beat Barcelona, but they could lose to Bournemouth the next week.
But they also had a culture of soccer, the science of soccer.
Yeah.
They used to sit drinking tea or beer and discuss Malcolm Allison
and Ron Greenwood was a guy, because he signed him from Crystal Palace. He was the record signing for £60,000 in 1960.
That's right.
Whenever he went to
a hell of a goal scorer.
Whenever he went to when he went to West Ham, and he brought me into professional football. And
what were the principles? What was special?
Well, the principles was doing it simple.
Yeah.
He said, why complicate the game? Do it simple. And it's all about, people talk about now about Barcelona and Pep Guardiola's, what a great coach.
Yeah.
They play two-touch.
Yeah.
Get it and pass it and move.
Pass and move. Liverpool, the same thing, eh?
The Liverpool in the 70s were the best football side I've ever seen in my life. That era when they won the European Cups. And Bruce Robler, who I'm best mates with, I said, Bruce, tell me about Liverpool. He says, fucking tell me about Liverpool. All they did was pass and move.
Yeah.
We played 5-a-sides every day, and we passed and moved. And Budgie, from the 60s, in the West Ham, when they won the Cup Winners' Cup, and they won the FA Cup in 64, it was all about passing and moving. So when he brought me in, he said, you get it, and you give it.
Yeah.
And I go, okay, what else? He says, that's all.
Yeah. Did you see Manchester City's last goal the other night against
44
United?
passes.
Unbelievable.
And all it was one touch, two touch, one touch, two touch, moving, passing.
But why is it so difficult for people to get that?
Because people try and reinvent the game. I think it's with every game now. You look at rugby, you look at this, you look at that.
Yeah.
Everybody's trying to reinvent the game. And the principles of the game won't change. There's 11 players.
Yeah.
There's a ball.
Yeah.
And we've got to get to the other side, stop the opposition coming here. So football's about percentages, isn't it? Really, it's like rugby. It's about percentages, and I think the more percentage you're in the opposition's box, the more chance you got of scoring, and the percentage of them coming in your box, they can't score. So let's keep the ball, pass and move, and
But it's so obvious, and that goal. I mean, I watch, and I'm a United fan.
Yeah,
and I watch.
It's embarrassing to be a United fan.
It is.
Sorry, John.
Yeah,
but
no, absolutely.
But right now, I would be embarrassed to be a Man United fan.
With that talent and the way they play.
I think where the football club has gone, and I don't blame Jose. I mean, I think it's been a culmination of when Alex left, Sir Alex Ferguson left. I think it's just been a downward scale, downward spiral.
Absolutely.
The players they've bought for the money they've spent is ridiculous.
What do you think of Mourinho? I mean, when they signed him, I said,
you can't. Mourinho is a fantastic coach, but he's the wrong coach for Man United.
Really?
Because the mentality of the club has always been about going forward.
Attack, flamboyant,
it's not
exciting.
It's not about getting results.
Yeah.
It is about getting results, but in a way to get results. And I think you cannot fault Mourinho. I think he's a magnificent coach. His titles, I mean, there's not many people who do what he's done.
And apparently a great guy, apart from, sometimes he plays with the media.
But I think the media thing doesn't help him.
Yeah.
I think he needs to open up a little bit more and be a little bit more. And I think the players are a little bit and I don't think the players are good enough. I mean, there's no ways they're Man United players there. Not a chance.
Really?
Not a chance.
Would you fancy coaching overseas?
I'd love to do it, John. I think, John, the biggest thing I'd like to do is get another culture.
Yeah.
Football, I think sport is about culture. And I think you look at rugby coaches, people go to England, they go to Japan, they go Munster, they go to, Ireland. The culture is what I think I would like to experience. That's all. And
is it realistic? I mean, have you done all the badges?
Done all my badges. I got all that stuff.
Have you had any offers?
No. You know the problem with John, I say with a coach, any coach, rugby coach, your CV means nothing because there's a million coaches out there.
Yeah.
As a player, you can go on trial. They can see you.
Yeah.
But as a coach, I go, well, this is me. I say, oh, okay, we don't really care.
Well, Super Sports United 3
Yeah.
league in a row. With let's be honest, a relatively minor club.
I mean, Wits, we had nothing. I mean, we were never the best teams
Yeah.
we won the leagues with. We won it because we were just possibly organised and played a way that suited what we've got. But, I mean, it's very, very difficult. Coaching is about not what you know, it's about who you know. Like my good friend Harry Redknapp would always say.
Yeah.
You always get people in all over the show,
Tell us about your injury. Snapped Achilles tendon.
You can't believe, John. I thought I was really in the prime of, I was 31.
Yeah.
Just going on 32. I was, my job was going well. Football was going well.
What did you do as a career?
I was with Mornay Duplessis. I worked with Mornay. I had agencies, Mornay had the Patrick agency.
I remember Patrick.
And I had Mitre.
Yeah.
The rugby balls and the boots. So I was the agent for Mitre. So we had me, Jingles Pereira. There was guys all around the country. I did the whole Western Cape. And I worked for
you must have been living the dream.
Me and Peter Whip.
Yeah, me and Peter Whip, the centre, yeah.
Yeah, so it was me and Peter Whip. We worked with Mornay. And then we a company called Sports Balls.
Yeah.
And then we had cricket, we had boxing, all these agents. So I did I was the agent around the Western Cape.
But that must have been fantastic. Playing soccer, earning money, having a good job, living in Cape Town.
I was living the dream, the dream.
And
then it all came down. Football career ended.
Tell us how.
I snapped Achilles. We're playing against Amazulu at Kings Park, and I jumped and just turned around. It was like a gunshot. You could hear it in the stadium. And I looked around. I couldn't see anything. We thought somebody was a sniper or something.
Yeah.
And I looked at my leg. My calf was sitting under my knee. It's just like, And
did you know at that moment?
I knew that there was something wrong.
Yeah.
And I never kicked a ball. I've never played another game of football since then.
Because nowadays they stretch it back. They can operate.
And what they did in my day, they put you in plaster Paris and they bent my leg for, 8 weeks. And I came out and I couldn't walk. My leg was bent, and now you're trying to stretch. No physio, no medical aid. The club sort of disbanded me. That's what really I should have known then. They wouldn't pay for my medical costs, all those type of things. So I was on my own. No job. So I had my job.
Yeah.
And then I got offered a job at a club called Vasco da Gama.
Yeah.
Which is in the amateur league in the first division.
They travel well.
Yeah. Yeah. Except when the wind's blowing.
Yeah.
So, and then I had a fallout that they didn't pay me for 3 months. And we played against a club called Seven Stars. We were bottom of the league. And I think we were second or third bottom.
Yeah.
And Rob Moore phoned me and said, I want you to come and coach me. I said, okay. And I went there and the rest is history.
And making those decisions at the time, you said you go with your guts. Did you simply go with your guts and so on, or did you sit down and work it out and plan?
There was no planning, John. When you're that age, there's no planning. It's about you see something, you go, we went that Seven Stars team. I'll never forget it. They were second bottom, and we went 27 games unbeaten at that stage, and we came second in the league. That's when I had Benny McCarthy.
Yeah, yeah.
And Benny came into the scene. And
tell us about young Benny.
I went to training the first night, John, and Rob Moore. You know Rob.
Yeah,
Moore?
of course, the agent. Yeah,
he was there, and he was the owner of the club, and this boy hadn't been playing. And I said, who's this boy? I said, I don't know the players too well. Let's have a game here.
Yeah.
So we had a little bit of a 10-minute game. I stopped the game. I said, stop. I said, I don't know what your name is. You take a bib, because I had the first 11 and the second 11. Yeah. He was in the second 11. I said, you take a bib, you in this 11.
What did you see?
Amazing ability, amazing talent, amazing will to want to play football, desire to want to win. Very thin and gangly, but touch on the ball. He scored 25 goals. I put him on the wing. And he said to me, "Nee, meneer, I can't play on the wing." I said, "Hey, you're playing on the wing. I'll show you how to. I need to protect you. You can't play up front because they're going to kick the daylights out."
Because in those days, people got kicked.
Yeah, because you could tackle from behind.
Yeah.
And he got 20-odd goals in the first season. And the second season, I said to Rob, we need to keep him if you want to get promoted. And he said, no, well, I said, well, okay, sell him. And we sold him to Ajax Amsterdam for $1 million from a second division team from nowhere. And he went there. And
were you surprised? Because the year he played for Blackburn Rovers, he was the most valuable.
But you look at his career, John. Wherever he's been, the first year is unbelievable. Ajax top goal scorer. Then he went to Porto, Celta Vigo first year. Then he went. He played all over. He did really, really well. Yeah. And he's had a great career from a boy from absolutely nothing.
And how do you think he'll do as a coach? I mean, he's presumably going to take.
He's done well.
Stuff. Yeah, exactly.
He's done brilliant.
Yeah,
he's done. And I like it. But what he's like about him, he's done his licenses. He wants to progress. I think he's going to get out of his comfort zone sooner or later. Yeah, because it happens in coaching. It doesn't matter how good who you are, and then and then he'll be tested. But I think he's got the characteristics. I think he's a great boy. He's a great guy. He's humble. Away from the game. Yeah, and he's got time for everybody, and we still have a good chat and laugh. But when we play, he loves it because he beat us 4 times last year, and I took an absolute hammering from him and the media. But now we've beaten them 3 times in a row, so I've got one more to catch up.
And Mark Williams, he's another great mate of yours.
Mark,
he was one of the most...
me and Mark are the best friends. We still play golf together on a weekly basis.
How good was he?
Mark Williams also came very late in his life because he played, he played in the coloured league, in those days. And he came late to Hellenic to us. But he could score goals out of nothing.
Anyway,
He hit his knee, hit his shin, he goes in the top corner. And he's that type of guy. He's an infectious type of guy. And he's a very lovable type of guy. And we are best friends today, Yeah.
Why is it South Africans are so hopeless in front of goal?
I think, John, if you look at generally now...
is that fair? I mean, it's just...
Fair comment. No, 100%. I'll tell you a reason why.
Yeah.
And people say why. If you look at most of the guys where they get brought up on, where they live, dusty gravel pitches. They play 20 against 20 with 2 rocks on either side and 2 rocks on the other side. So the biggest problem in South Africa, they can't cross the ball. Yeah. They can't shoot. So the technique of shooting is bad. And they can't head the ball. That's our biggest problem in South Africa.
Apart from that.
Those are the 3 basic skills of a striker.
Exactly.
I need to be able to shoot, cross the ball, and head the ball. And they can't do that because they get brought up playing this little football where it's toe and touch, and little passes and passing the ball in a little 3-4 yard goal, where most people get brought up in big size goals, nice pitches, and you can develop technique and develop movement. That's the biggest problem. But
again, like your explanation of football, pass and move, it all seems so simple. Why do we not have strikers academies set up by the PSL or the soccer, the Ministry of Sport?
Unless you take them early and develop them. I mean, we are finding guys at 21, 22 and trying to make them footballers. That's what I do on a daily basis. Yeah. Where, in Europe, if
13-year-old.
Yeah,
Messi was signed.
If you take
13.
a 10-year-old and you take the best 10-year-olds from Brazil, Argentina, England, Holland, Portugal, South Africa, 10-year-old, we'll be better than all of them. A 12-year-old will still be as good as them, but between 12 and 15, which is that real development period, we'll be nowhere.
But it's not rocket science. So what's happening? I mean, I know Wits has got a great junior program.
We got a great junior program. Years. Our kids have been, but that's just a small little portion. We got kids we're training them. The other thing, John, is you need to develop your coaches. Yeah. You can't take people who are school teachers, people that think they know football. You need to develop your coaches. So for me, it's coach education first, coach players second, not the other way. And I think it's a big problem.
But is anyone listening?
No.
Because, 1996 was an unbelievable.
But John, I'll go back to 1976.
Yeah.
1976, we played Argentina at Rand Stadium. We beat them 5-0. 1978, Argentina won the World Cup. That's 2 years away.
Same players, basically.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, this
same crop.
Yeah.
If we took out the 76 team and we played in the 78 World Cup, maybe, I don't know, we had an unbelievable crop of talent. And this goes back to my saying, when I was coached by British coaches growing up. Yeah. We were taught good basics, good understanding of the game, good game intelligence. Nowadays, what are coaching these kids? So we had this English mentality. I'm not saying they were right.
Yeah.
Or they were wrong. We had Scottish coaches. We had English coaches. They came to South
Joe
Africa.
Frickleton, I remember.
There you go. They came to South Africa. Eddie Lewis, all these guys, Budgie Byrne, Frank Lords, and they coached us as kids, the basics of the game. Nowadays, what are coaching these kids? So we were taught I'm not saying the English were the right way, but it was understanding and intelligence of what to do, how to strike a ball, how to head the ball, how to pass the ball. You look at the passing and the striking of the ball techniques of the kids today. It's pathetic.
And yet the juggling skills,
as I say, there's 3/3 of a pitch. There's attacking third, a middle third, and a defensive third.
Yeah.
In the attacking third, we are useless. Defending third, we are useless. But in the middle third, we're as good as Barcelona or Spanish teams, passing, moving. But once we get into those 2/3 of the pitch, we are uselless.
Tell us about Bafana.
It's been a really sad state.
I mean, let me come in first. 1996. That team was fantastic. That
So
semi-final against
a
Ghana.
year ago, I said 76. If you go 76 through the 80s, we had all these coaches in South Africa. They were still coaching. Eddie, Budgie, Joe, all these guys. So there was a good understanding and there was a good cultural mix of black, white, coloured. And I think every team needs that because they bring different sets of skills, I could say, or mindsets, and it needs it. Nowadays, we don't have that. We got either one or the other. I think and then into the 90s, we still had it. 96, that's the best. Look at that makeup of that team.
Yeah.
The cultural makeup, first of all. I've always said, they had the white guy at the back. They've got the colours up the front. You've got to have a colour in your team. Because if you're going to lose a football match, you're going to win the fight. Because those guys can fight. You have the black guys.
This is a very politically incorrect conversation.
You have the black guys in the middle, doctor, shoes, who are unbelievable ability. You could open up a can of beans for you.
Yeah.
So look at the cultural mix. It was fantastic. And we won football matches.
And team spirit. And also they enjoyed themselves.
The togetherness was unbelievable. So I'm not saying that's the be and end all. But it's jokingly, if I say tongue-in-cheek, jokingly, that 76 team had that.
Yeah.
The 80s we had that. And the 90s, and then it all just fell away.
From winning the Cup of Nations, now we battled to qualify.
98 we got to the final of the Nations Cup with Choma, and we lost there. And then 2002, we still had a little bit of that. We went to the World Cup in Korea. Remember that? And then it's been a real uphill battle for. I think we try to change the way we play as well. I think we need to go back to a little bit of that, what we had.
And I mean, I watch, apart from Chiefs and Pirates, Sundowns and Bloom Celtic, empty stadiums.
Yeah, big problem, John. I think television has got a lot to do with that. I mean, we can't take television away because we would all die.
But look at the
without SuperSport, we did.
Look at the UK. They've never had better crowds, and the television is
yes and no, John. Yeah. If you're going to look at some games, or you're going to go watch some of those bottom teams. I think what we need.
But I look at the games on TV. Most of the crowds look full. I mean, you can't compare it.
I think the biggest problem we have as well is we still got the World Cup stadiums, which are very big.
Yeah.
And they're too big to fill these stadiums. I think they need to be reduced if you can.
Yeah.
And because then, I mean, look at our little ground. We get 3,500, 4,000 people. It's fantastic.
Great atmosphere.
And you need more of that,
Tell us what the secret of Wits. I mean, Wits just seems to be a club that's got heart, that's got spirit.
It's got great history, John.
Yeah.
I mean, there's guys who've gone before me that set the cultural understanding, which is the Eddie Lewis's of the world, the Terry Paynes of the world, Jim
Terry
Bones.
Payne, MBE.
Yeah, MBE. You know,
Sorry, Terry.
I still play golf with him. I play golf with a lovely guy.
I bet you don't win too often.
No, not even him off the senior tees. Flipping hell.
Yeah.
So, and there's been that understanding. Then it changed a little bit. There was a cultural difference in the way they played. When I came in, I found a club that's very acceptable to mediocrity.
Yeah.
This is fine. I said, well, no, this is not fine. You got the wrong coach then. And try to change that. And over the years, it's,
How did you get to Wits?
Well,
Supersport United.
Yeah, my CEO. The bottom line
Yeah.
is my CEO. I'll tell you, just go back a little bit.
Yeah.
I was at Supersport and Brian Joffe phoned me.
Yeah.
He said, I want you to come and coach the team. I said, okay. So we had a meeting. He said, well, what do you want? He says, it's not really about what I want. He says to me, well, okay, when you come in? I said, well, I'm not coming. He said, I'll pay you whatever you want. I said, no. He said, nobody's ever turned me down. I said, well, I'm turning you down. He said to me,
Brian
why?
Joffe of Bidvest.
Yeah. I was in his office there in Melrose Arch. He said, why? I said, because your team is crap. He said to me, what are you talking about? I said, well, these players, you can never win anything with this lot.
Yeah.
You need to get rid of this one. He looked at me. He said, well, I'll pay you anything you want to turn this thing around. I said, I can't, Brian, because I'm going to win the league this year with Supersport. He said, you're going to win the league? He said, you're crazy. We won the league. So
you won it 3 times.
He phoned me. Yeah, he phoned me. He said, nobody's ever turned me down for any amount of money. And I said, well, that's what it is, John. And then years later, I went there. My CEO left Supersport to go to Wits.
Yeah.
And then he was there a year already, and he said to me, look, come. I said, okay, well, let's see if we can do something.
What makes a great club, as opposed to just a great team?
Great club is people that are passionate away from the team, that are passionate, who want to improve the club without, besides the financial gain of the salary, but who want to go the extra mile. And I think we've got that at Wits. I think a lot of people around the team want to go the extra mile, want to do better, want to improve this, want to improve that, run it professionally with the honesty of trying to improve. And I think,
Alex,
a coach can't do that by himself.
Yeah,
we got to worry about the players, and I think we've got that at Wits.
But you look at Alex Ferguson when he went into United. The tea ladies now are Manchester United
exactly,
fans.
exactly.
The people who sell the programs are Manchester.
Well, that's
United
what I've tried to create at our club, trying to get everybody on board, thinking the same way. Because people got to. I think, John, the bottom line is in life, the most important I work on, you got to care.
Yeah,
you got to care. If you don't care, well, like if you come to your job every day and you're doing it because it's my job, but you got to care about what you do.
That's why I got up at 2:15.
Sorry, John.
17 years because I care.
People say to me after 25 years as a coach, I want to go. I'm late actually to go on the training ground, put my boots on, and I care about what I'm doing today, about improving. And every day, if I could do something or improve someone just a little bit, I think you'll get your rewards, And
what advice would you give to a youngster now? Because everyone's soccer mad. We all know that. Soccer mad youngster is there. He's doing pretty well at school, etc. He's 14 years of age. He's talented, etc.
The biggest problem nowadays, I think in my days, our parents never cared.
Of course they cared, but
They couldn't get to watch you play football or go to training or take you to training because most of them, my parents my dad was a labourer.
Yeah.
He was a carpenter. My mother sold shoes on the side of the road. She couldn't take me to training or go watch.
So there was no silver spoon, eh?
Nowadays, there's too much silver spoons. Even with transportation, we had to find our way, and bicycles, whatever we had to do. And I think a lot of parents see their kids as money making. And if they've got any ability, then they want to get involved in their careers. Our days, we listen to the manager or the coach. That's how I grew up. There was no agents. There was nobody telling me, must do this, must do that.
What do you think of agents?
I think they're part of the game.
Yeah.
You've got to deal with it. I think it's as life moves on and society moves on in life, like cell phones. My day, I never had a television set at home. You had the landline phone. There was no cell phones. There's no, that's how we lived. I mean, John, you grew up in that era.
Sure.
And
but
we had no television.
Advice for the kid. Advice for the kid.
The advice for the kid is listen to your coach.
Yeah.
Because your coach, like me, there's no side benefit or side. My interest is in you, to see the well-being of you and to see the betterment of you as a person, as a player. I think there's too many agents that are there for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
And when the career's cut short, they're gone. And I see so many players who started with me and ended with me, and they got nothing because of bad management, because of various reasons.
What about education? Is it possible for a soccer player?
Well, John, I had the best 3 years of my life in Standard 8, so I've got no education.
You got all the old jokes, eh? Yeah.
So I got no education.
Do you regret that?
No, John, because in my time, education wasn't important. If you go back to the 70s and education wasn't important, John. It was get your matric.
Yeah.
If you got your matric, you were like a varsity graduate.
Yeah.
And that was it. And it was all about getting a job, looking after your family, and try and get on your feet. And when I got out of the army, I worked at a computer company. I can't even push a button on a computer today.
Yeah.
And I was told I'm a computer technician. They sent me on a course. I didn't know what I was doing, but anyway. Nowadays,
for a kid now, would you recommend a kid to get an education?
Of course. I think education also helps you as a player.
Yeah.
I think it gives you a better insight into things, your understanding of concepts of game plans, of situations, about when to react, how to react. I think it teaches you a lot of emotion, education in terms of bad times, good times. And I think education is key. My day, it was about playing, training, getting stronger, getting fitter.
And what about kids? I mean, we know it's a different era. Apartheid is gone, thank goodness.
Yes,
we live in this incredible country, but the effects of apartheid are still there. You get kids who've grown up with a very, very modest background, townships. They haven't had an education, whatever. You've got to deal with. How much do you get involved in the lives of your players?
Well, if I see a player driving to our car park with a fancy BMW, he gets it from me.
Yeah.
Especially when we made our bonuses last season, I see new cars in the car park. So I'm, because we spend a lot of time together, hotels, buses, trains, planes.
Yeah.
And we, and there's a lot of interaction about sitting down. So what stage are you in your life? Are you married? Have you got a girlfriend? And the biggest problem we have today is there's a lot of children that are being born out of wedlock.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that type of situation. So it's an ongoing process of the same situation occurring in South Africa.
Yeah.
And it happens. I mean, it all happens. But you need stability. And I think players without guidance, I mean, these guys driving brand new BMWs and they haven't got a garage to park the thing in.
Yeah.
Do you understand? I said, rather put your money. I always tell the players, they'll know, put your money in bricks.
Yeah.
Put your money into bricks. I said, what's that, coach? I said, buy property, buy houses, buy bricks.
And does Wits do anything to
yes,
help the
we
players?
do. We got financial advisors.
Yeah.
Outside of the agents, we were supposed to be looking after the situations, and I don't think it gets done. To be fair, I think they do guide the players, but they need. I think what you need to do in South Africa, and you can't because it's very difficult. You need to be taking a certain portion of their salary off every month and put to a certain pension fund.
Well, the PSL has spoken about that, haven't they?
Yeah, but you can't because it's legally not.
Yeah, you can't force people to do it.
A lot of absolute. I mean, hogwash.
How do you get on with the suits at the top?
I do. I think there's been a much better interaction with the suits and the man on the actual coalface, because I think they need to find out more. Sometimes, John, when you live in a world and you sit in the office and you're making decisions without talking to the people on the ground who actually work on the ground, I think you get a little bit pigeonholed, you're a little bit blinkered, and I think there's been a lot more interaction with the guy on the ground. I know, like with my CEO, he's on the executive, and I tell him, we need to be looking after the football. They say, what are you talking about? I say, the ball that we play with needs to improve. Why? Oh, because that's the most important thing.
Sure.
I said, we play with a ball that's bought from Macro, out of those big bins.
Yeah.
We need to play with a ball so the pitches need to improve, which it's done. They've been, the PSL, for the organization where they've come from, when I played, I mean, it was bad, John. The refereeing's improved. Well, I shouldn't be saying, but the fields have improved, the everything's improved, the timing.
But what I'm getting at is, in a nutshell, our soccer should lead this continent by miles. We should be up there in the top 30 in the world. Given the love for soccer in the country, given the money that's in soccer, given the talent that's here. I mean, do you accept that?
I agree with you. We should be like North African teams.
Yeah.
But if you, the first thing I say is, look at the size of our nation. It's getting smaller. If you take a player from 20 years ago and you take a player, look at the 96 team. Look at the size of that team.
Yeah, big boys, yeah.
Dr. Kamala was big. John was big. John was the smallest.
Yeah.
John Shoes, bless his soul.
Yeah.
You look at the size of our national team now. We're midgets. We are absolute midgets. Now, people say, oh, well, Messi's small. Yeah, that's one.
Yeah.
What about the rest? Busquets are big. Piqué is big. You need physical strength. You need power. Besides that skill and that.
But is that just conditioning?
I think it's a lot to do with the food that we eat today. I think it's a lot to do with the makeup of the people. You look at the average guy. The guy who comes from a township now. I don't think he's eating that pup and flesh anymore. He's eating McDonald's now. He's eating Steers. He's sorry to mention names, but
no, sure.
KFCs and all this rubbish food.
Yeah.
And I think at least.
Do you look after diet to the Wits guys?
So we feed the players. But John, that's after training.
Yeah.
And pre-match. What about the other 20 hours of the day? So a lot to do with diet, what they do, how they live.
Can you give us hope for the future?
I'm very hopeful. I think Stuart's got an unbelievably hard task on his hand. He's getting hammered from left, right and centre. Does he have the players? Maybe not. Maybe they need to go a different route about, what type of players we pick, what do we look for. And it starts from the youth development. You'll see the skillful kid and everybody go, oh, he's the player. But they'll forget about that big kid at the back who maybe technically not as good, but he'll give you different attributes into the game, which you need. It's like if you say, John, if you play, you can never play lock.
No.
Do you understand?
Sure.
Because there's certain attributes of positions that you need.
Yeah.
We were the centre backs that can play out from the back, but they can't do the most important thing, hit the ball.
Yeah.
They can't stop people playing. They're physically not intimidating. So really, there's a problem.
Should more of our players go overseas?
Are they good enough? They need to go earlier, John.
Yeah.
So what we do, we'll sell players. We'll try and push players all the time if we get opportunity,
Do you get,
we had the boy now.
Yeah.
We had the boy now, Pagamamani Slumby. He went to Al Ahly, but he couldn't handle the lifestyle. And it's understandable. It's a no disrespect, but it's a Muslim country. The boy is he's going to live in, it's very, very difficult for him, the cultural.
So what about the future? Ambitions for Gavin Hunt?
The future is trying to survive the weekend.
Are you going to win the league this year?
John, we're in a great position.
Yeah.
We're in a great position. Is the team good enough? We will get tested.
Yeah.
We're going to have to, we got a lot of new players, and only in adversity do you find out where you are.
Yeah.
It's not in the good times, because in good times it's easy. You win, fantastic. You're a fantastic coach, and the players and everything. Like we lost on the weekend against a team that should have beaten. They were better than us, fair and square. So we were tested. We need to be, we're going to get tested in the months to come. So let's see. And you said at the beginning you'd jump at one of the big clubs, Bafana. Your name has already been. Yeah, John, I've been in those interviews. How recently? I've been to two. I was in the 2010 interview before Carlos got the job. Yeah. And it was disappointing because I really felt that it needed South African coach, your own World Cup. There's no problems to qualify. You're going to qualify automatically. And I felt it needed a South African coach. Even if it wasn't me, it was going to be Pitso at the time was assistant. And I think they missed the trick there. But anyway, But is that on the list? Is that on the bucket list? Coach Bafana, it must be. I think, John, the biggest thing for me is I'd love to take a team to a World Cup. Be it South Africa, be it China, be it Japan. Yeah. And that's the ambition for me. I've been to many World Cups as a spectator, but to go there to take a team, even if you're there for 3 games and you're out, I think it'll be fantastic. And that's really my ambition, to be a best player you ever coached? I got to say Benny. Yeah. I think, but Benny was a short time, and I never had Benny in the PSL. If you go to the PSL stage, I think I've had so many unbelievable players through my time. But a guy like Elias Pelembe, you got him from Mozambique. He couldn't speak English. I used to have a full go at him, shit him out from morning till, and all he did was say, "Thank you, coach." Today he speaks English. He came from nothing. He's got beautiful houses. He's got cars. So to see a guy, and he's still with me today. That makes you feel great. Yeah. Fantastic. Gavin, thanks for talking to us. No, thanks, John. Thanks for having me. Wow, what a great chat with Gavin Hunt. Thanks, as usual, to Slow in the City for hosting us. Follow us on social media or subscribe via your favorite podcast app for updates. See you next time on the Sport Exchange podcast. Cheers from John Robbie.